Hey, welcome back to the Real Estate Excellence Podcast. Today I have a Ruby Elite Club winner in the house. She is nearing her 6th-year anniversary in real estate. She has worked for 2 major real estate brokerages. As you guys all know, I like to dig into that and what the difference is there. She graduated right here locally from Mandarin High, went to UNF as well. Let's welcome Erica Harding of Engel and Volkers to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Excited to be here.
Excellent. I'm glad you came over, and it was good to see you at the Breakfast of Champions there a couple of weeks ago.
That was great.
Great event. Always picking up stuff there, which is much like the podcast. You know, there's hopefully something there. Somebody walked away with something new, or at least a contact. But as I start off the show, always, I see you went to Mandarin High. Did you grow up right here locally?
I did. I grew up on the south side, over in Deer Creek, Deerwood, and then went over to Mandarin High. I actually did 2 years down in Gainesville as well. So I graduated from Mandarin High and then went down to Gainesville, lived there for 2 years. And then I actually applied to UF for a journalism major. So initially when I moved, I was going to Santa Fe, the community college there. And it was very common for people to go there for 2 years, and then you were essentially like an automatic transfer over to UF.
Florida.
Yeah, for whatever.
Save a lot of money.
Oh, yeah. So it's just easier, you know?
Yep.
So I did that, and come to find out, that was the year they had switched things. So they were no longer doing the automatic transfer. And so I had applied there for journalism, and then I had also applied back at UNF for communications. So I actually did not get into UF for journalism. At the time, it was kind of heartbreaking, but I ended up back in Jacksonville and studying communications, which, looking back now, I'm like, oh my gosh, like what a better fit for me.
Right.
I actually try not to watch the news right now. So, you know, I just feel like everything happens, you know, the way it's supposed to be, right? And so that's, you know, what kind of led me back to UNF.
So journalism, what did you envision yourself doing? Actually, you know, writing for a paper or being on the TV? What was your young person's vision there?
Yeah, so actually when I went to Mandarin High, I was actually on like the Mandarin High morning news. So I was anchor A, and I loved it. I thought it was so fun. I loved being on the camera. I just loved the whole TV production process. So that was kind of where I was going with it.
Yeah.
And even when I went to UNF, even though I was a communications major, I took the electives for, you know, I can't remember what the class was called exactly, but, you know, TV production, news, that kind of thing. So I thought maybe I would still pursue that, but then really realized that I loved advertising, communications, and that whole realm so much that was really what I wanted to put my focus on.
All right. So, well, you said it was a benefit. What do you? I mean, besides, I'm sure the cost was a lot less. To take that out of it, but you know, I think the Lord steers us in certain ways. My faith that you. Creates doors, open doors, closes doors. Door closes over there. You go over to UNF. When you look back now, I mean, as you gestured, you thought it was now a blessing. Actually, what kind of benefits do you think the smaller classroom? I met smaller university at the time, because I imagine Florida. I've never been over there personally, so I imagine, but with
Definitely
the amount of
bigger
students,
campus, bigger school for sure.
Yeah.
And in some ways, yeah, UNF is great because it is a little smaller, and I am from there, so I know a lot of people there who were already going to school. I had friends who, you know, went from high school straight to the UNF.
Right.
So I think it kind of benefits you. You feel a little bit more comfortable. The pressure's off a little bit, but I feel like it really put me in a great situation for future networking, just meeting so many people on campus while there. You know, I'm going to be living in Jacksonville and raising a family here, so it really, it was a benefit for me for the future for who I would be working with and networking with.
All right, so you graduate, and I see in the name of the company, which I don't was Mint Mag. You have Mint Magazine. Was it really Mint Magazine? The name of the company that was Velasquez, right? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yes.
So you actually spend like 6+ years there.
I did. So how I got there was while I was at UNF, your senior year, you are required to do an internship. And that internship I applied for at Mint Magazine. You had to do something advertising related. So you could go work for a big company, or you could kind of go right into, you know, an advertising world. So I actually had a family connection with Mint Magazine, which is kind of what led me there. And then when I went there, at the time, this was when deals were a big deal, right? Like Groupon, Living Social, that kind of thing. So when I went, they were like, you would do great with our girl who does all of our online marketing, social media. She's our deal girl. And I was like, great, this sounds like a lot of fun. So I did that. So I interned there with them, learned a ton about, advertising world, print, but also online as well. Saw their salespeople, kind of coming in and out every day. And anyway, so I graduated from UNF, and actually Mint Magazine offered me a job. So that girl who was doing that had kind of been promoted. She was assisting the CEO, and they were looking for someone who could fill her shoes. So I kind of did that in some ways. And then while I was there, probably like a year or two into it, I said, okay, I like this, but I don't know. So while I was there, I was kind of near the door, and I would see their sales agents or salespeople coming in and out every day, and I'm like, wait, I like that life. I want to come in and out every day. I don't want to sit here at the computer all day, every day, just, mindlessly hoping to get out for lunch. Which, some people, that is like the best for them, and that's what works for them. But with my personality, I'm just busy. Yeah. So I need to be on the go. So anyways, I went to the CEO there, and I said, hey, I'm seeing them come in and out every day. I feel like I could be really great at this. Would you be open to giving me that opportunity? And he was like, absolutely. So that same day, we went to the sales manager there, and he was super receptive. He thought I would be great, and luckily, they gave me the chance. As someone with no sales experience, most of their people had a decent bit of experience, and I had none. So they actually put me out in the Nocatee, St. Johns County area. They didn't have anyone out there.
Which at that time was probably very new,
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. So, you think now you're like, oh, wow, like what a great area. Well, yes and no.
Not a lot of businesses there yet.
No, there was really not a lot. And my area was Nocatee, even a World Golf Village. Well, there was really nothing out there. So I was driving a ton. I was really trying to make something out of, not a lot.
Right.
And what it taught me is hearing the word no, learning about different businesses, different business owners, what works for them, how they run their businesses. It was super, super interesting.
Was there any formal, did they send you to any formal sales training or just more internal?
Totally. So when I was hired and brought on there, I actually went away to Pennsylvania for a week to their headquarters and went through a pretty rigorous sales training. You're learning about their brand, how they, operate and things like that, which was super interesting, but also, overwhelming. I think I was 23 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Amongst people who are
So you'd only worked for
older.
them doing the other stuff for maybe not like a year or so before you made the transition?
Yeah. So I was super young, but very hungry. I definitely knew this was like in my wheelhouse. I knew I could be great at it if I just could take everything that they were teaching me and apply it in my own way.
Right.
This could be really huge for me. And so, that's kind of how I got started at Mint Magazine.
Well, obviously we're going to eventually roll into real estate, but, even for a young person fresh out of college, to go and learn how to be a transaction coordinator, learn how to be someone's real estate agent's assistant, to kind of get a feel for what's going on. And would you say that first year of you kind of working in the office kind of gave you a little more, background on what's actually happening? And then migrating to the sales job was a little easier because you knew what was happening behind you, so to speak, and back in the office that you could, place it. Because I think a lot of people, they could jump into real estate or jump into really anything. And if they don't have any background or I talk about a wall, that knowledge to stick on, you could sit in a class, but if you don't know, I'm sure you see things today that people told you 3 years ago. You're like, why are they telling me this? And all of a sudden that transaction happens. Now you know where that information goes. And I think, I would guess in your situation, that year of working in the office and just, being an apprentice even, and then eventually making that leap to sales was a lot easier because you were a little more confident of what's actually happening.
Absolutely.
Going on.
Yeah, I couldn't have gone into that position without, interning and kind of doing that first. So. And then they did, like every year that I was there, they would send us away for a week to, San Francisco, to Orlando, and we would go through, rigorous sales training. And I say rigorous because they're all day, you know, from 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock,
Right.
and you're learning and you're absorbing. And I do take all those key takeaways and things I learned there.
I always say to the role playing. Oh God.
Yeah. Not my favorite by any means.
But it's kind of like, I forget who I was talking to a few weeks ago, and this is the second time I've thought of this person, but I can't think of but we were talking about just learning the scripts, and that sort of thing, and the role playing, and especially as a young person, don't have a lot of life experience and no previous sales experience. As much as that hurts to do it, it's like learning the scripts. And there's some agents who are really good and will preach about, hey, learn the scripts like the back of your hand. And I think Megan Farrell Nelson, she was the one talking about, was talking about scripts. But anyway, all right. So
love her, by the way, she's so great.
Yes. So you're in sales for the next 5 years. Yeah.
5 years.
They grow your area. They give you more people to talk to.
So,
or your area is already already growing, but yeah,
they did. My area was growing, but what happened is I became a mom. So here I was driving all over town. You know, I mean, we were doing Salesforce. You're doing, you know, they want you to make a certain amount of calls. You need to be doing drop-ins, and it was exhausting.
Yeah.
And as someone, you know, with a baby, I'm questioning, you know, is this really the life I want to live? You know, while my kids are little and things like that. So I had to kind of take a step back. And when I was on maternity leave, my husband, Kyle, who's actually a broker, threw out the idea. He's like, hey, you know, why don't you contemplate the idea of going into residential real estate? He's like, I think you would be amazing at it. I think you have the knowledge and the willpower, and I think you could really, do really well. So I was like, yeah, you know, I mean, I like the idea of that. It sounds great. And we had actually just built a house. So we had kind of just gone through a little bit of the process of it all. And so I actually went back to work after I had my son for a little bit, and I came to them and I said, you guys, I'm sorry, but this just isn't for me anymore.
Right.
And as hard as it was for them, they were sad to lose me. I took the rest of the year off and started January 1 with Keller Williams Southside, which is where I was for the next 5 years.
Right.
So apparently I stayed places for 5 years. Not really. Don't listen to that.
Well, Keller Williams, I think, is a great place to start for a new. They have because they do have so much training. There's a lot of their structure. If you want to plug into it, from what at least my perception, you lived it. So I already know, because I know I know a lot of Keller Williams people. Had quite a few of them on the show, because there's a lot of top producers there. It has a lot of structure. So plugging in, to a system at Keller Williams. But what actually led you there? Did you actually go and talk to other brokers, or?
I did.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And
so
that was your decision.
I did. Yeah. So I interviewed a couple of brokerages in town. Ones that I had heard great things about, to see, you know, what would be the best fit for me. And my husband, Kyle, he was like, you know, that's really important. Where you're going to get training and who you're going to surround yourself with is really important. So he kind of gave me that tip. And I knew that there were some great agents who I actually just knew in life over at Keller Williams Southside. So they were one of the ones I interviewed, along with a few others. But when I went in, you know, I just knew. You can pick up on, I'm a big vibe person. So I walked in and I could just tell these people were happy. The vibes were good. And it seemed like everything that they were saying that they offered agents, and especially new agents, was right on track with what I was wanting. And I will say the training that they offer there, I don't want to sound cheesy, but it's amazing. There's nothing else like it, in my opinion. I fully engulfed myself. I went into every training. I listened to every panel. And another thing that I did that I feel like is really, or was a difference maker, is about 6 months in. And I was doing a lot of open houses, by the way. So I started off as single agent. I've never been
grabbing
on a team.
other people's open houses and working them.
And they encourage that in the office. You know, agents will post. There's like a private Facebook page where, hey, you know, I have a new listing. Anyone want to do an open house? And people can kind of, you know, take advantage of that, which is huge and great. So I would do that from time to time, and then that was really helpful in the start of growing my business, honestly, because people actually, from the outside looking in, don't know if that's your open house, if that's you're hosting it for somebody else. So you just being there and hosting it and posting it online, hey, I'm hosting an open house, they think that you're busy. They think that's your open house. And it's really helpful, to your outside world who's watching you, your future customers and people who might refer you, but also just to see for you to be out there and even when you're not busy, looking busy.
Just in that point you just made, I mean, have you found or maybe realized early, because now you work for another major brokerage, Engel and Volkers. It's really not to an agent. The brokerage is what you're talking about. Like you've thought Keller Williams is going to be able to offer you what you as a new agent what you needed, so you plugged in. But as the consumer looking from the outside in, they don't really even chart. Is it Keller Williams? Is it Remax? Is it Engel and Volkers? In my opinion,
sure. Yeah,
I mean,
most people don't know the difference.
Yeah.
They know you and who you're representing. And of course, when you don't have a lot of experience, you want to lean on that. I leaned, in the beginning on the fact that I was a Keller Williams Southside agent. We are, at the time, we were one of the top brokerages, I think number 1 or 2 in town. Mm-hmm. And I think the other one was our Jack's Beach office. So at the time it was, super reputable. People definitely were recognizing Keller Williams, and that's what I needed as an agent with, a brand new agent.
Well, I was just starting this, you doing the open house. No one knows whether it's yours or not because the outside consumer isn't paying attention to the internal workings.
They just see that you're out working and meeting people, and, I would show, hey, I have, everything all set up. It looks so nice. I'm here till 4, that kind of thing. And just showing people, future sellers, like, hey, look at what I would do for you. But also just putting it out there. I'm a poster, so I'm going to be posting.
Well, tell us a little bit, because you said initially when you first started with Velasquez or that marketing, and they wanted you in the office handling the social media at the time, which social media today is light years.
It was literally their Facebook page.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But how, what you learned, what are some of the things that maybe you took away from that you're now applying today?
Sure. So posting every day, whether you think you're being annoying or not, you're not. And the truth is, if you're posting from a standpoint of you're genuinely enjoying what you're doing, hey, even if it's just your morning coffee or what have you, people, staying top of mind. I will literally, put a story up that says, here's my morning coffee, and I'm scrolling through new listings. Do you have a property you want to see this week? Little things like that make a big difference. And so, like I said, even if you don't have a lot going on in the beginning, act like you do. Right. Fake it till you make it type of thing. But one thing that I will say about Keller Williams, just kind of leading off of that, I did their Bold program. So I don't know if you're familiar with Keller Williams Bold or not.
There's some people have taken it multiple times. I was somebody who I had it in here, she'll come to me. She told me she took it like 5 or 6 times. But I'm familiar with it.
Yeah, I've only done it once. And that was really, at the time, such a difference maker for me. So as a new agent, I think it was 6 months in, I did the Bold program, which a lot of people from, other brokerages are like, oh my gosh, the Bold program. But to be honest, when you go through it, it's pretty life-changing. It kind of, you take your real estate business and your real life, and they take you look at a different perspective of, why am I doing this? How can I talk to the people who I see every day in a different way, a more approachable way? How can I come from contribution all the time? Yes, it's a transaction, but you always want to be the person who's coming from contribution. What can I do for my customers? How
expand
can I
on that? Expand on the contribution part of it. To give us, simplify it for us.
Sure. So first of all, I'm always trying to educate myself. I'm going to every training, and I always want to be the best agent I can be. I listen to podcasts, audiobooks, and you really have to live that life. If you're going to do this full time, you really need to be listening to other top agents. You need to be educating yourself on the market and on just how businesses ran these days, because you can fall behind. So that's kind of where I really take it seriously, come from contribution. I want to be the best agent I can be so that I can help as many families as I can in the best way possible. I think if you read a lot of my Google reviews, some of them say, I thought this was going to be really stressful, and it wasn't. I actually enjoyed it, and it was, blah, blah, blah. And I think that's really what I want. That's what I strive for. I want people to enjoy the process and feel like I did everything I could do for them that
So
they were
when
educated.
when you use the word contribution, from what I'm reading, the way you describe that, is you try to be as most, because every situation is different, every transaction is different, whether it's lending, title, house issues,
Completely.
whatever it is. Yeah, you want to be that person who is not surprised by the situation, that when the situation does arise, you already go, hey, you know what, I was in a class last month talking about this, I totally understand that I need to call so and so, because maybe the fact that you're trying to become as knowledgeable as you can to obviously make your customers feel more comfortable. Because when you're not stressed, if you're stressed out because you don't know how to handle a situation, or you stop answering phone calls because you don't know how to answer a
Right.
situation, I know agents will do that. They'll
Yeah,
hide.
absolutely.
Hopefully, praying it will go away. But that you feel confident to tackle that situation, which gives confidence to your buyers or sellers.
Absolutely. And I just always, with anyone who I work with, I want them to think like we are a team. I'm not in this for anything but for your best outcome.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what I mean by that.
So let's talk about that first year. Do you bond with someone over there at Keller Williams? Do you grab a mentor? What helps you? Kind of really tell us about your trials and tribulations. Because I imagine, like any agent, there comes times where you're like, why am I doing this? Right.
There are definitely times like that. And the first year is so hard. I think the key to that is just really sticking to it. If you're going to do this full time, you need to do this full time. You need to live, breathe, eat real estate. And obviously, I'm a young mom, right? Like, I have 2 kids now. At the time, I had 1. And so my biggest thing is, I want to be there for everything for them, but I also have to figure out, my day-to-day, how can I maximize everything? And question.
well, we're talking about that first year, but I'll do some subtitles off of that. You just mentioned something. You have how old's your child at this time? When your first year?
My first year, he was 1.
1 year old. So how are you juggling your time? Are you time blocking? I mean, there's certain, obviously, things you need to do. I don't know if you're still nursing, whatever those type of things that a mom with a 1 year old is supposed to be, the family chores that you're having to take care of.
Oh yeah,
and
all
then
the
also
things.
So how do you tackle that?
So pretty much time blocking for sure. And that's something that I kind of learned in the BOLD program. Pretty much I am a big fan of scheduling your emails out. So I will type a lot of emails late at night and I schedule them for first thing in the morning. Seems like I'm right on top of it from the outside perspective, but I typed it a while ago. But one thing that I think is really important is, yes, time blocking. I take advantage of all of my free time. If I'm in the car line, my laptop's out. My laptop's with me everywhere. I think you really do, as a mom and a working person in the world, have to take advantage of your free time, because when my kids are home, I want to be in their lives. I don't want to be on the laptop. I don't want to be on the phone. Now, of course, it's not a perfect world, and that's not always reality. Are my kids sometimes in the car late afternoon, going to a showing? Yeah, absolutely. But that's okay. So really that first year, you're figuring out your schedule. Time blocking is important. I think mornings are really great when my kids are eating. I'm trying to do the things and take advantage of all of that.
Do you get up extra? Is that something you like doing? Or
I do like getting up early. I do. And if I get up early, I try to turn on a little audiobook or a podcast and kind of get 30 minutes in when I can, even if it's just me switching over the laundry and listening to your podcast or an audiobook. Right. I'm just trying to kind of get that in. But I think definitely time blocking. I like to set around 2 hours a day for admin and just follow up admin, reaching out to people. Posting on Facebook, posting on Instagram. I'm a big checklist person, which I'm a little type A, a little OCD. So every morning I kind of have my iCal. I also live and die by. So everything is in my iCal, literally everything. Drop the kids off. My Apple Calendar.
Oh.
Do you have one? You don't use your Apple
I
calendar?
don't use my Apple Calendar, no.
Oh my gosh. So if I showed you mine, you'd be like, oh my gosh, that is a little crazy. But I really do. I plan out everything. And as a mom and as a working woman, I just have to. So I kind of live and die by my iCal.
Well, digging it because a lot of people are like, I don't know, if afraid or even though we listen to podcasts, I tell you, if you time block, it'll free your time up. Schedule your stuff, and you'll have more time. And because we do have the tendency to, we're in there doing our postings or making our calls, and all of a sudden we end up. Instead of 2 hours, it becomes 3.5, 4 hours before we realize, and then we didn't get something else done that we could have gotten done, or that free time that we would have opened up later in the day. Now we have to get on the laptop and do something because we didn't really stick to that schedule.
Yeah, time blocking, I mean, it's definitely tough. I like to do mine first thing in the morning. So if I'm dropping my kids off, I like to go right home. Hopefully some of those emails that I scheduled out have gone out. Maybe the people have responded. So I'm kind of...
I gotta ask you.
Sure.
So if you write them late at night and don't send them at 11 o'clock at night or whatever time you're doing it, I mean, what's the difference between that and sending it out at 7:30 in the morning?
So... okay, so I'll type it out, 10 o'clock at night, and then you can schedule it for like 8 a.m., whatever. Yeah. Now, I just like to send it out in the morning. I feel like it's, if I'm up late, I don't necessarily want, everyone to know, like, hey, she's up at 11 o'clock sending emails. So that's kind of why I do it.
Because they may respond the other OCD,
ding.
They're responding our way. Now the ball's back in your court, and you haven't got out of bed yet.
Yeah, no, I think it's nice to just send it out. Like I said, a lot of times when I get back from dropping my kids off, they've already responded. So it's great. So it's just kind of little systems like that. I also am a big fan of email templates. If I'm typing the same email 27 times, yes, I'm going to make it a template. So I use my notes app. I have, an offer template. I have, pre-closing template, post-closing template. That way I'm just kind of clicking on that, copy and paste, saving a lot of time. I'm a big voice texter. I text everything, voice. So there's a lot of little time-saving things that I've, kind of take advantage of that maybe seem not that big of a deal, but in the scheme of life, it actually has become a way to, be more efficient.
Is that something you brought from the previous employer? Or is that something you've learned now?
No,
as a real
so
estate
actually,
agent?
like the email templates and things like that, I listened to another real estate podcast from, it's actually two girls up, and I think they're in New Orleans. But anyways, I listen to them quite frequently, and they had mentioned one time about email templates, and I was like, what an idea. Every time I'm typing an offer out, I'm sitting here saying the same thing over and over again.
10 minutes while you type it all out.
Right, yeah. So that was something that I kind of learned, and I've really evolved from it. So now I have like an email template for like literally anything, but it saves me so much time. And honestly, it becomes so much more professional because when you're in real estate, a lot of times you're typing emails on the fly, right? You're just, in your car typing real quick. Well, this is always exactly what everyone needs.
And if you aren't an English major and you aren't the greatest at to spend that time, use ChatGPT, create it, review
especially.
it, make sure that way the English is as best as look. And now it's a template, so when you send it out, it sounds good. You're not writing it every time and sounding a little different, maybe misspelled, different punctuation, whatever. You're sending out something that's professional where you're just plugging in a couple lines here and there.
Sure, and I do customize it. Like each offer is a little different. I'm not going to say the exact same thing like I'm a robot, but yeah, absolutely, time saver. And just little things like that you can kind of, systems that you can fill in for your business, I think are just really key.
All right, so we're in that first year. Do you team up with somebody? Is there somebody that you shadow in that first year that really gets you going or helps you move along?
There wasn't anyone that I shadowed per se, but there were definitely a lot of top agents within my brokerage that, I was watching, and trying to learn everything I could from. People like Christine Welch, Sarah Rocco, I mean, they're just a wealth of knowledge. So I definitely would try to take advantage of that. But I wouldn't say I shadowed anyone per se. I kind of knew I didn't want to be on a team because I didn't want to be locked down to that whole office hours. And, I wanted
the regimen of
I wanted to work
requires.
for me. That was why I went into real estate.
Right.
So that to me was really important to be in control of my own schedule. But I would say definitely was influenced by a lot of agents within the office.
Do you remember anything particular that you picked up? You're like, an aha moment, as I call it, right? That just watching and seeing what some of these others were doing, you're like, I got to implement that in my business right now. Did you pick up anything like that?
I think just really, really being a part of your community. And, whatever neighborhood you're in or whatever community you're in, whether that's, your kids' t-ball or, your gym or whatever, to really let everyone know, like, hey, I do real estate and I'm great at it. And I think that was something that I really learned, that, hey, if you're walking around, you need to have a hat on that says realtor, real estate. I love it, and that was something that I was like, okay,
Right.
I think at first, especially when you get into real estate, you're so nervous, right? You're like, I don't know a lot, and the truth is that's okay. You will learn as you go, but you really need to just let everyone know you're in real estate. And I think that was something that, new agents especially, don't be shy. Don't be what do they call it, an undercover agent?
Yes. What was it? Undercover agent. I was thinking it was Jordan Ferreira. I was asking her because her boys are all playing ball like yours. And, I asked her what she did, and she said, I just wear a T-shirt. I wear a T-shirt that says, something about real estate.
Yep.
I love being a realtor or something, whatever. Yep. Which makes me think, so if Corey, if you're listening to this, you should buy all of your team a bunch of...
Yeah, Corey.
Yeah.
We need shirts.
Bunch of wear.
No, Corey's so great. He definitely keeps us swag. We got some swag.
Yeah. But something simple like that, like you said, as much as it is and as much as it's been talked about on the podcast, when you're, getting your community or, the T-ball team. And sometimes it's a subtle way. People are so, I don't want to be pushy. No, you don't have to be pushy. Just wear the T-shirt. They will come ask you.
Literally.
Yes.
This weekend, I was at the ballpark, story of my life, and I had a little energy drink, which I like to drink, and I had my koozie on it. I have like a slim can koozie, and it says, to keep your drink cold and get your house sold. And then it has my logo on it. And it's so, it was like a minimal investment, but I use them all the time. And then, anytime I have a closing, I'll stick them in there. But literally not so many, but a couple of people were like, oh my gosh, that's the cutest koozie. Do you have any extras? Like, I want one.
Right.
And then boom, here are people who I've never even worked with before, just genuinely wanting to,
koozie with a business card.
Love it, yep.
And now they know
hey,
who
I'll
you
even
are.
put a little beverage in there
Yes,
for you, right?
that's right?
Like, here you go.
I'll bring the cooler next time.
Sure.
So
I think little things like that really do make a big difference. You don't always have to be, here's a market report, here's this, here's that. Just literally being you and being out there and being proud of what you do makes a huge difference.
Yeah. What are some of the the stresses? I mean, that and we don't have to necessarily pin this down to the first year. As I like to hear, what are some of the trials and tribulations that you had? Some tough times that you had to break through or find out how to overcome.
Sure. So I think like I said, my first year I had a 1-year-old, and then I had my daughter Hayes a few years later, where my business was really grown. And her first year she was born, she wasn't going to school or anything, so she was riding along, living the real estate life with me. And I kind of realized, okay, this is really hard to have 2 kids and be doing this all the time. And I think the hardest part is really just time management. And the hardest part for me is not wanting to miss time with my kids. So, you're doing all the things,
but you want to make the income so you can do really great things with them, right?
Sure. And then, so that really is the hardest part for me. That was really the hardest part, was figuring out my time management and honestly being okay with not being there every once in a while. The realistic is, it's very hard to be at every game, and that's a lot of pressure to put on yourself and things like that. So you have to know, like, hey, can I work around this a little bit? Can I not? You have to decide in those times, like, hey, I just can't be there, and that's hard. And that really was the hard parts for me in the beginning. And also just, also not feeling competitive with other people, keeping your head straight. Here I am, I'm a young mom with 2 kids. Well, you're looking on Instagram at someone else who very comparable to you, but maybe doesn't have any kids. So here they are out in the real estate world at 9 a.m., fully functioning with their hair done and everything, and you're like on the couch with your kid, like, oh my gosh.
Right. Are you missing something? Yeah.
Right. Am I not, doing and it's so hard. It really is, especially with Instagram, it's everyone's highlight reel. And I think that is super important to know, that it is a highlight reel. And you need to do you and do what's important to you and your family and your goals, and keep your head straight. Not on a swivel. Don't be looking around, because there's no secret sauce in real estate. The secret sauce is you. You're the secret sauce. So do everything that you can do that is your personality, that makes sense for your life and your timeline and where you're at, because everyone's on a different, we're all at different paces in life.
Right.
And I think that's a real struggle with agents right now, is that we're all so much on social media, and there's a lot of awards given out and things like that. And it can be really hard not to feel like, oh, am I not doing good enough? Am I not as successful as I would like to be at this point in my life? And the truth is, that's just irrelevant, not important, and you really just have to focus on you and what takes for your business.
And obviously from the loan officer side, I mean, we have similar things that
Sure.
what everyone else is doing, but the reality is there's no points for spending your entire 12, 15 hours a day out going crazy. There's no, so I read something the other day, or heard something, I can't remember, it probably was an Instagram reel. Someone said the only person that's going to realize you worked late 20 years from now is your kids. Yeah. And I don't think you need to be, obviously we try to be at every game, but sometimes often wonder, what if I wasn't at the game? Is he going
be just fine?
Yeah. Would he be just fine? Would he act different? Would he do something different? Or there's that growth thing. So sometimes hey, we can't make the game tonight. I've got to go do a showing, and this is the third ball game this week.
Yeah, right.
And it's 95 degrees out and humidity.
For sure.
Hey, right. For sure. But you oftentimes sometimes have to let them go out on their own too a little bit to notch up. Mommy can't be there all the time. Yeah.
Yes, and I'm so, luckily I have a great partner, so he's always, great about backing me up and being supportive in those tough moments or when I can't be there. I'm glad that it actually doesn't happen that often.
Yeah.
I'm really great about, and my customers are too. If I were to tell them, hey, my son has a ball game that morning, can we meet, at lunch or in the afternoon? Honestly, I'm so lucky with most of my customers. They are genuinely so understanding, and so that's a great thing.
Well, talk about that a little bit, about 6 years in the business, and I think one of the things that I've said numerous times on the show, like there's some agents who can't even refer a good restaurant because they just don't have control over their transaction. And I know at Keller Williams, some of the people that you mentioned there a few minutes ago, I know them and how they like to control their transaction. How important do you feel it's important that when it comes to having, whether it's your lender, your obviously your home inspector, having those guys, having a really tight team, you're working together. You're not wearing the same Keller Williams jersey, but you are a team in the transaction. And how important is, or do you feel, maybe you don't feel it's important, the more control of the transaction, the more successful. And I think at the end of the day, our goal is to close, but obviously close with a smile, and everyone that they're going to refer you.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? How important is it to have that control so the transaction is going to run smooth, that you are going to get that person that's going to leave that nice Google review for you?
Yeah, no, it's so important, honestly. And over the last, 5, almost 6 years, I have definitely met with so many home inspectors, so many lenders, insurance, people who you make a lot of connections with. And when you are going through a, tough time in a transaction, it makes it so much easier for you to reach out to your insurance contact and be like, hey, this roof is this old. Is this going to be a problem? And them being real with you, so that you can be real with your customer. I feel like, yes, absolutely. As soon as I go under contract with someone, I have and even before then, I send them vendor recommendations, and I let them choose. Hey, I recommend, so-and-so, but
in
these
all
are all
areas?
so great. For the most, I might give them a little leading, especially for different personality types. I might feel work better with certain, people. But yeah, absolutely. It makes a huge, huge difference. It's a team effort completely to get to the closing table. Title, lender, the whole 9 yards. It's a team effort.
Well, so with your experience, how do you you're presenting you're feeling you got a customer's ready, maybe they've made the offer and you're waiting for the offer, right, or the acceptance of the offer that you send. I assume that's when you're kind of starting to warm them up, like, okay, let's get prepared. If that's accepted, we need to get that home inspection done, because if we're going to close, or there's only a short time, or we got so many days to get that done.
Sure.
Let's start putting these people on on the calendar, right? Or at least, getting them on deck,
Lined
so to
up.
speak.
Yeah,
lined up.
absolutely. So a lot of times when I have someone go under contract, I'll have them kind of reach out, or, you can actually go online these days and kind of look to see, when would be the next home inspection we could get into. So yeah, absolutely. I actually send out a sheet as soon as we go under contract, and it says, the exact timeline. It says, hey, we're under contract. Now you need to do a loan application. You need to schedule an inspection, and you need to reach out to insurance. So that's kind of like bing, bang, boom. I keep all the dates on there. There's recommendations. It says reach out to me.
So you say a little something about each,
your binders do
here's
this
a couple
day.
home inspectors, which one? I think people leave too much out there to, I don't know what the phrase is, but too much out there for suggestion.
Yeah, I actually give like 2 home inspectors, and we see who can get there the soonest, and that's and also their price range. Some are more, a little more pricey than others. So we're looking at everything like that. But yeah, absolutely.
But to be more from the standpoint, like I know when I do insurance, I don't say, I don't even mention that there's an option, although I can't control who they do insurance as long as enough insurance is provided. But I immediately say, hey, let's get a quote, because I think right away the quote comes in. Most likely, we know in Florida, all these guys broker out insurance. State Farm can write anybody's insurance
for sure.
Here, that they're going to pretty much all be getting the same thing no matter who they go with. But
insurance, I pretty much have one guy who I kind of recommend, and then he kind of outsources if.
Yeah, well, say they have all the, because Florida has so many different homeowners insurance providers, and who's going to write the policy or not. And then how old the roof is, right? That falls into the factor.
There's
too.
only a few in that category.
But I think people, talk about insurance. For those who don't realize, if you're a real estate agent, done enough transaction, the loan officers, we see it all the time, where all of a sudden closing is moved a couple of days, or something is adjusted on there, and especially having to deal with a new construction builder I was working with for 3 years. That date sometimes it moves at the last minute, and you've got a good insurance company. They're nimble and they're right on it. They're like, oh, it's going to take us a day to reschedule. No, if you got that right insurance agent, boom, 15 minutes later you got an updated
quote and everything you need. Yeah, it makes a huge difference, and that is actually extremely important. Especially in Jacksonville, we have a lot of older homes. We deal with a lot of storm damage and things like that, and it makes a big difference to have a really good insurance.
Yeah, just having those team players in your pocket. But I was going back, just suggestive selling. Here are 2 people. Which one do you want to use? This guy charges this guy charges that. Here's the pluses and minuses of their service. Not like, well, here's 2. Choose.
Yeah,
if you want to choose one on your own.
No.
If they want. If they call you back, say, hey, I'd rather use this guy over here. You can't really say much, but to suggest them, to lead them into your team, because it's going to. If there's anything going to blow up,
it makes a big difference.
Yeah.
We've already worked together. We know personalities, and I know I can go to them, with a quick text.
Yeah. And they're going to respond to you.
Completely.
I think people, my perception is the consumer, our clients, don't understand that these vendors, and especially to a real estate agent who is the center of the whole transaction, as far as the ultimate, that we're really wanting to please you, and by pleasing you, we're pleasing them. We want them to be pleased, but ultimately you're the referral source.
Right.
And so we're going to go above and beyond. We're going to answer that call at 8:00 at night, versus the standard consumer is not necessarily going to get that kind of attention, depending on what the situation is.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. So it definitely helps as a buyer or a seller to have a great agent in your pocket that is going to work hard for you, that networks and knows everyone. That can be a huge benefit to you, for sure.
How important do you think it is? You were at the Breakfast of Champions Landmark. How important it is for agents? Obviously I don't go to everything. There's obviously thousands of things going on every day in Northeast Florida. Yeah. But how important it is to show up at some of those and meet some of the other agents, or go to the NEFAR training. Not, a lot of times they're doing it hybrid, especially after COVID, and you could sit in your house, but you don't actually, during the break or whatever, meet or see some of these other agents and actually just shake hands and just get a face on them, and type of thing. How important is that?
I think it's huge because honestly, when I do go to events like that, I see people who I've worked with and done deals with, over at different brokerages who I've never met before.
Right.
So then you see them and you're like, oh my gosh, I feel like I know you. And it's just so great because another coming from contribution, is bonding with other agents. They're sharing info, we're sharing info. And I think that's huge. I think talking with other agents and networking, there's so many of us.
Yeah.
The competition, it's like, unless you're maybe in the same neighborhood as someone, maybe it's a duel. I genuinely love to share information. If someone asks me to go to lunch or coffee, I love, let's bounce ideas off of each other.
Right.
And I think it's just also important to be posting that you're there. You're there networking with other top agents, and I'm posting that on my Instagram story. People are seeing that I'm out there. And maybe they even know, some people who are my customers, maybe they know some of those agents. It kind of just gives you a little bit more notoriety. And obviously it helps to be among top agents.
You never know. You never know who you need to call.
Right.
You, for whatever reason it may be, and all of a sudden that listing pops up and you're like, oh my God, I've got the right homeowner, the right buyer. They really want, that's the home they want. And to be able to call over there and have that conversation, where the seller knows you, has met you, they're like, yeah, hey, give you some insight, you're going to have to throw the best out there, put an escalation clause in there.
Even networking with side agents and with new construction, because I do sell a lot of new construction.
100%.
Being able to shoot them a text and say, hey, do you have anything in this price range and what have you? And then them responding right away, huge.
Yep.
So doing, all of the networking, and there is a rhyme. It's not just going for fun and having drinks, which is great, and I do love that too. But it really is making those connections because they can be very important.
Yeah. Now, I remember when I was working on the lending side with the large builder here in town, I would say, hey, knowing inventory was low, I need the spec sheets, because the builder was dragging tail.
Oh, yeah.
It's like,
if they're not in the office,
I wanted to
you're
offer
not
to run their
from
marketing
them.
department for them, right? So give me the list of the spec sheets. Let me, because now I'm adding value to the agents out there by sending them out there and saying, hey, just want to let you know, here's some, if you got any customers.
Sure,
looking.
yeah.
But there's also non-builder business that I was doing, had the pre-approval, knew what price range that they had to be in or wanted to be anyway, whatever that box was, and then say, oh, you know what? Inventory's low, but you know what? There's this new construction home over there with where they want to be payment-wise and what they want. That would actually work, because there is a disconnect between the builder and what they have available. They've gotten better in the last year because they're a little more desperate and entertaining, realtors
with
and so
rates
forth.
going up, it has affected them for sure.
Now they got to be a little more, aggressive. Where 2020, they didn't even want you guys around.
Yeah, they're
right?
like,
21,
submit an offer here and we'll see you later.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you're 100% right on the site agent. Knowing that site to be able to pick up the phone, or that site agent, if they're proactive, is constantly
reaching out to you,
saying, hey, there's the spec houses that we got available right now.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that is huge.
I think the mindset in my office at the time was, why would you? Because we got paid more for a customer who was a non-builder customer, right?
Gotcha.
Because the builder leads were basically, they were feeding the leads, so we didn't get paid as much. But if I made a relationship with a realtor and they're sending me that pre-approval, we got paid more for that. They're like, why would you lead them to a new construction when they're wanting to buy a non and you get paid more? I said, well, because my relationship is with that real estate agent. That real estate agent, if I can hook them up and put that person in a home, that real estate agent now is moving on to the next customer. They're getting paid. I only got paid half as much, but hopefully the next deal they're gonna, you know what I'm saying? They're looking for me. Yeah, they're looking. They know I'm looking after them from that standpoint. So it's the long-term relationship I was trying to explain to them.
For sure. There's a method to the madness. For sure.
Knowing what you know now, what 3 things would you tell, you had a friend of yours at one, and I would imagine you probably do, you're a young person, you probably have a lot of friends that are asking you, hey, what about real estate? What are a few things you tell them?
I think I would tell them if there were 3 things. The first thing is that you have to do it full time. I think with life right now, people can tell when you're, posting once a week, or are you posting once a day? I think you kind of have to give it your all. That's the first thing. be ready to go in it full time and give it your all, because to build a successful business, you really do need to be in it to win it all the time and live and breathe real estate. Especially when you're beginning, for sure. You can get a little bit, someone else is doing
you're starting to get in the groove.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the second thing I would say is get rid of all of the negativity. Tune out negativity. I think there's so much limiting beliefs. We're also, in the beginning, especially, you feel like I don't have a lot of experience, or I don't know a lot about this market, or, the town. Maybe I'm not from here. Really just putting yourself out there, being vulnerable, knowing that, hey, I don't know anything, but I'm willing to learn. I'm going to do everything I can to learn as much as I can. I'm going to give it everything I have and be in it every day. And I'm not going to be affected by any of the negativity. And when I say negativity, I mean, you hear a lot in real estate, right? People are constantly coming to me saying, oh, how's the market? It looks like, garbage, and it's horrible, and, everything's on fire. And yeah, in some areas I think there are, but I always tell people, I'm like, you can't listen to that. We are such a niche market here in North Florida that some of that is not really relevant. So you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt. And as a new agent, you really have to be strong enough to tell people that and to not let them, make you feel small, like, oh my gosh, maybe the market is terrible. And then my third thing I think would be is whatever your thing is, taking advantage of that and letting everyone know that you're in real estate, you're loud and proud in the best way possible without being, too much. Be proud.
Without wrapping your car?
Hey, if that's your thing, I also say one thing I love about real estate is that everyone runs their businesses so different, and everyone's so successful in their own way, and I think that's so interesting. Some people, they're like, I would never put my name on my car, like what have you, but some people, they're like, oh my gosh, I put my name on my car and I get a ton of business from it and it's great. And hey, if that's you, I think that's great. If you are loving pickleball and you're playing pickleball every day and like that's how you're getting business, that's great too. Everyone has their own thing.
Right.
And I just think that's one of the best parts about being in real estate is that you have your ability to create your own path and really your own real way to success with no limit.
Yeah. The second thing you were talking about there, like the negativity part, and not to say that there's no negativity in our world that we have to actually realize is out there, or, like right now, obviously, what are challenges that real estate having right now? Inventory. Well, you can make that negative. I mean,
Sure.
That's easy to make. Oh, I don't have enough homes to sell. Well, the homes that just puts a lot more demand on the homes that are existing, and then in any business, the positive spin, that's going to weed out the part-timers, so to speak, to just use that as a broad term. The people who aren't really dedicated in it, it's going to move them out, because now where they were only doing, 3 or 4 transactions a year, man, now they're down to 1 or 2, and now they're like, now they're too busy. Whatever they were doing with all the other time they had, that time now is, if it was watching social media, is now expanded.
Right.
Because in their negativity is like, oh, there's not a lot of homes to sell out there, so let me just stay on Facebook a little while longer, or whatever they were doing.
And hey, if you're going to be on Facebook, make it worth your while. I hope you're, commenting on people's posts and, hey, posting something on your own. I'm a big advocate for Facebook. I think there's so many different generations on Facebook, whereas like Instagram, you got your younger crowd, maybe a little older crowd, but you're also missing a lot of people. So I think Facebook is great for that. And I do have a Facebook page, a Facebook business page, and, my own separate Instagram page.
Right.
But I think, the biggest thing that you can do as a new agent, and what I kind of think is the most important, is just, tuning out negativity and really focusing and honing in on what is the best, what do you have to offer? What is your secret sauce? And expanding on that and growing your business through that way, touching your crowd of people from a genuine standpoint.
If you were to go back and do it again, start over, like ground zero, January 1st, but knowing what you know now, is there any things that you would have done initially, especially like right away, to get the ball rolling? Because I really feel our business is over time. You're a good real estate agent. Maybe you start off hot or whatever. Maybe you're just a gradual riser. But the longer you stay in it and keep doing the consistency of social media posts, etc., your business is going to grow. You can't stop it from doing. How fast is
literally.
How you're connected. But if you're consistent in keeping those things going. So looking back, is there any course that you would have took? And I kind of lead this in because I did have Krista Mashore, who's a national coach, on the last episode, and I was listening to her stuff, and I'm like, man, if I was a real estate agent, I would plug right into her system that she's basically created. Because I mean, either it's really good or she just knows how to sell it really well. But it made a lot of sense to me. If she really was covering the A, B's, and C's from a marketing, what's your marketing standpoint. But for you, looking back now 6 years, you had your sister was becoming a real estate agent. How would you pour into her and say, hey, this is what you need to do right now?
I think what I would say what you really need to do is A, join a brokerage where you're going to get a ton of training and support, because that's super important. But B, I think the thing that I would do is put yourself out there right away. At first, until I really did the Bold program, I wasn't posting on my Instagram about real estate. I was kind of posting on the Facebook, and I kind of kept my Instagram personal, but you can't do that. You need to be in it to win it and really be posting. And like I said, even when you're not busy, hey, host an open house. Go open a vacant listing that's beautiful in the area that you're trying to sell a home in. Show people, hey, I'm showing this property today. Whether, you're looking busy to them or maybe they're interested in the property, you just never know who's seeing it. So I think really just totally infiltrating yourself in the business. And even when you're not busy, creating something that you can do.
I got 2 questions off of that statement. I'm going to write them down because I know I'll forget one.
Sure.
I'm going to write down the Instagram here in a second. You grew up in the area. You went to high school here. Spent most of your college here. You now started your family here. Then you started in the real estate. How did you initially, and then what do you still do as far as your friends and family, and even, I think there's friends that are a little closer, and there's associates, right? People who know you and you interact with or whatever. You see them at the ball field. I would call all those other parents, whatever, associates, unless you're actually breaking bread with them or something. But what do you do to make sure they're hearing Erica's in real estate on a regular basis?
Well, most people follow me on Instagram. So if you do, you'll know, I'm on their Instagram stories every day. Morning, noon, and night. Some people probably find that annoying, but hey, I am who I am. So I am constantly posting on Instagram. I'm in real estate. This is my latest closing. This is what I'm doing today. I'm showing this property. I'm out to lunch with this person. I also like to make it fun. I like to post things about Jacksonville. This is coming to the St. Johns County area. This is coming, to the beach. I just tried this new restaurant. You got to go check it out. Just little things that you do every day make a really big difference. And I feel like some people don't like to post when they win an award or what have you. It seems like, hey, you're a little braggy. But the truth is, for every person that thinks you're bragging, there's someone who's like, wow, that's super impressive, and I'm definitely going to reach out to her next time, I have a real estate transaction that I need to handle.
Instagram to Facebook, because you said you like Facebook. I mean,
I do like Facebook. I'm not on there as much, but I have pretty much everything that I post to Instagram, unless it's like something truly like personal.
So you feel your circle's Instagram. So my Instagram question was from the previous statements is tell us about when you're thinking about what you're posting, because you rattled off a lot of things.
Sorry.
It's fine because but to someone you're explaining to them why Instagram. You've chosen Instagram. You're focused on that platform, which I think that's actually something Krista Mashore said. Whatever social media platform you use, become an expert at that. Your main one, because obviously you can cross post with Facebook easily and all that stuff. But if Instagram's your favorite, so when you're doing Instagram, there's a difference of doing the reel versus just a photograph basically, or some sort of hey, I won an award. Post. Sure. And then now I guess they have the what do they call it, where you can actually post like up to 9 like photos, and they can
The carousel.
The carousel.
Yeah.
That's the term.
Yeah.
Carousel. What do you have any sort of mindset like, hey, when I'm at the ball game, the Little League, I'm going to do stills or I'm going to do video. Do you even break it down to that?
I literally live in the moment. I'm a creative Pisces, and and a lot of things I post after, right? So if I've been doing showings and all of that, I'm not sitting here while I'm there, which I feel like is important for people to know. If I'm showing new construction or what have you, I'm taking pictures and video, kind of low key, and then I post it later, So everything you do, you're super in the moment with, but you have content for later. Mm-hmm. But I do think I don't really follow like a rhyme or reason, with how I post. It's really creatively, what do I think is not necessarily for T-ball, but for real estate, what's going to be the most effective? If I put this picture up, I'm going to do a poll. Hey, did you like this white countertop or this gray countertop? Just kind of helping my algorithm, helping out, get some people interacting, and people love that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I'll be like, asking a simple question like, would you rather have a preserve lot or a lake lot? I'll have like 100 plus votes on, that. Yeah. It seems minor, but, and also helps me learn about people and things like that. So, every situation is different. I actually just started venturing into Reels, which I'm probably behind on, probably like 6 months ago. Mm-hmm. So I definitely do try to venture into that. And something I learned at the Breakfast of Champions was how videos are working while you're not, right? So here we are as realtors, we're just, bending over backwards, driving all over town, working all the time. Well, videos are a great way, Reels especially, for you to create something. It's honestly, use a template, bing, bang, boom, pop them in. You've got a great little reel that people can always find you by, even when it's the middle of the night, even when you're out of town. Yeah. And I'm saying that because I do a lot of like new construction reels. Here's the model over in Nockatee's newest community. Take a look at this. People love looking at brand new homes. They love looking at new construction, and even just homes in general. Right. Obviously, if it's a resale home, I'm not going to probably put a reel up about it because someone might live there. But just making it fun and creative, I think, is a great way to get people,
Are you doing anything on YouTube? I find most agents are not, for some reason.
I'm not on YouTube, mostly because I just have never had the time to really, dive into all of the YouTube. I know that I know a lot of other agents who do YouTube, and they see a lot of success with it, but I've just never... I'm not a YouTuber. I know there's a lot of people who are just on YouTube all the time watching it, and I never got into it.
Well, if you're, I think, and I may be wrong, it's my perception, but the Instagrams and the Facebook primarily are feeding people who are already, in your circle of who are friends or friends of your friends. Now, some of them may look out of state. But I'm always thinking that, from a real estate agent standpoint, and I think Krista Mashore kind of tips on this because she does a lot. Josh Rogers, I think, probably took a lot of his ideas from what she does because she's with EXP too, is when someone's searching. They're searching things, and a lot of times we just go on Instagram and we just start scrolling. Now, granted, it knows when we stop and start watching a certain video, it'll start...
More of them pop
we'll
up.
Start more of that type will start popping up. But I always visualize, like, for a real estate agent to, even take your reels that you're shooting for Instagram, you can post those in YouTube Shorts, less than 60 seconds. Yep. Post them. And now, but the key thing is the title. And that's where I noticed I have, I paid a few $100 for a guy to kind of coach me for a couple months on what it is about YouTube. As far as how do you get hits. Of course, a lot of these guys are YouTubers, which I'd love to get paid by YouTube. I wish some of the videos went viral.
Call me.
But but I noticed, like, even the full-length shows where I go almost every of the 146, I probably got 130 of them actually full-length on the thing. Those are slowly getting clicks because I guarantee you someone is searching them and that YouTube video is pulling up. And whether they're just watching a couple minutes or watching the whole thing, whatever, they're getting hits. Same thing with the Reels. Audio podcast too. You're Googling, someone's searching you, it's popping up, someone's going back or maybe first learns about the show, but they go back to CC Underwood 2 years ago and they listen to that episode. Sure. So I feel YouTube is more of that searchable mechanism and to cross-post. because the reels I cut from this show, they're going to go on Instagram, they're going to go on Facebook, and they're up for life on YouTube. They are technically up for life on Instagram, but they're after a while they
kind of go
shelved.
the wayside. Yeah.
But if I go in there and change that title, I can redo it in YouTube and change the title because it's all totally a search thing. So especially like you're in that neighborhood. I'm in Beacon Lakes, new construction, whatever model that's on there. Who knows, until Beacon Lakes is sold out, but you never know. Someone may actually go and have that model 10 years from now and go, what was that model? And then all of a sudden your video is popping up talking about when that house was actually being built, because this is a search market. That's my vision of it.
It's also great just for sharing. If I tag, do a video for ICI and then they, reshare it, it's like, oh my gosh, here I have all these people who are interested in ICI homes seeing my video and sharing it, which is just huge,
I don't understand why. I do a lot on the desktop because I got the video already on my thing, and Instagram doesn't allow you to collaborate from the desktop. It only lets you do it from the phone. I don't understand why.
One of their funny little
rules. And that's the thing. Put a collaborator on there, and if the collaborator, it opens
you can
up.
Share it, and it would be nice. Yeah,
100%. All right, let's dig in. We'll roll downhill here. Why Engel and Volkers? Why the change? Did Corey put some romantic stone out?
No, not at all. Not at all. And I love Corey. He's amazing. He's a great broker. But yeah, so it's actually kind of not a funny story, but so I don't know, maybe a year and a half ago now, a year ago, you're always kind of approached by different brokerages and things like that. But I actually kind of entertained one for a little while, another bigger brokerage in town. And I talked with them pretty good.
Did you feel? Well, did you feel you basically ran your game at Keller Williams, that they weren't adding any value to you? Because that's a Sarah Rocco, the adding value. The
yes,
point was,
absolutely. I never felt like that. And to be honest, you'll never hear me say something bad about Keller Williams because I really don't have anything bad to say about Keller Williams.
Well, not that that's bad. It's just I think there comes a point where
value is important.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You got to continue to grow.
You are paying them, a certain amount. So yeah, you do need to be getting some value. But absolutely. So what led me to Engel & Volkers was I had, I was having some brokerages reach out to me. And to be honest, I was not looking to make a move by any means. And I told them that. Well, one of them kind of broke through a little bit to me, and he was like, kind of laying things out there. And I was like, it wasn't the right fit, but it kind of opened my brain. The wheels were turning a little bit like, well, maybe I do need to make a change. And Engel & Volkers, I had been following them on social media. It was something that I was definitely aware of. And honestly, it was a goal of mine. It was definitely something that I looked at like, hey, this brand really aligns with what I would like my brand to be. So let's see maybe what they have to offer. But I didn't, I was kind of just letting things happen organically. And long story short, I was connected through another agent to Corey because they thought that I would be a really good fit for Engel & Volkers. And so I chatted with him, and especially as a single agent who's kind of, a top producer, there's a lot that they offer in her office, marketing and things like that really make a lot of sense, that are huge time savers for me. Their in-house marketing, they do a lot of email things for us. They send out postcards. So when you're functioning like me as someone who's kind of running your own show, and I do have a marketing girl who helps me with certain things, it just made a lot of sense. And so here it was from the outside in.
There's a built-in assistant, built into
absolutely.
What you're already,
And if you need transaction coordination, what have you, they have it there for you. They also operate on a concierge service. My biggest thing is, even if I'm selling you a multi-million-dollar home or it's your first townhome, that is amazing, and I'm so proud of you, and I treat everyone the same, and that's what I love about Engel & Volkers is it's that concierge service. With Keller Williams, a lot of it is new agents. They're coming in and they're training, and I loved being able to help new agents while I was there and be on a panel and share my, info. But what I really found so great about Engel & Volkers was that there are so many top agents there that I genuinely looked up to before I even got into real estate. That, had made the move over there. And I was like, I want to be among them. I want to learn from them. And that's really what brought me there.
You mentioned
And Corey and the staff there are just the icing on the cake because they are truly great.
Well, I think he gets it.
Oh, totally.
Everything you just said was a great description, I think, of what I envisioned after talking to him and talking to many of the other agents that have come on from Engel and Volkers. And then really, actually, I mean, I actually sat down for 3 days and took that Krista Mashore, her webinar that she was doing, which sells you into her coaching at a higher level. But it really gave me a little more grasp of what's going on. And when you have made it through your sales and now you kind of figured out, okay, this is how a contract's done and so forth. What's the next level? Next level is to pour in as many buyers and sellers that you can, and how do you do that? And those are the experts that you want to hang around. And this, like you're saying, his support, the things he has built in. I think in our business, in the mortgage business, a lot of companies are totally lost on this. Is the top mortgage loan officers want an assistant? They're out there getting the deal. They may take the initial application. Okay, here's the pre-qual. We got a good deal. Send me your docs. Send me your docs means it's going to an assistant who's taking that, because that loan officer should be out there. Same thing with the real estate agent. You're out there making sure you're at your kid's ball game because you are wearing your swag. You're still swagging in and out your koozies, right? Yep. That's still part of the deal because you're only as good as the last deal you did, and you got to keep feeding the pipe. Absolutely. And I think Corey understands that, and the more he can of that. Sending out postcards, and that may take hours of time from you.
So time consuming.
And especially you by yourself, and you're only doing it once every quarter or whatever. They're doing it every day.
I literally wasn't doing them at all. I mean, when he was, when I interviewed with him and he was telling me what they do, I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be amazing, and it just, so much of it made sense. And as much as I know that, Keller Williams didn't want to lose me, this just made so much sense. And it wasn't anything personal. There was nothing that happened because, when I left, so many agents reached out to me like, what happened? Nothing happened. It was just strictly a growth thing for me and really a branding thing for where I want my business to be in 5-10 years.
Explain that, because you mentioned that earlier. You said your way you visioned your business and their branding was something that caught your eye.
Sure, So, I help so many first-time home buyers, which I absolutely love. They're amazing, and they're my favorite. But I definitely do. I sell a lot of oceanfront luxury real estate, which, being a part of Engel and Volkers is huge for that because, I have Corey there, and I'm surrounded by a lot of other agents who are doing the same thing, and that is a huge difference maker. If I am doing this kind of transactions, I want to be around people who are doing the same thing. And that was huge for me. I kind of felt like for that reason I needed to make a move so that I could grow into that direction as much as possible.
Yeah.
Not that I don't love the first-time home buyers because I treat them the exact same as I treat the luxury. But that's kind of where I would like my business to grow to, and so that's kind of where I was looking at.
Yeah, I mean, I would think anyone in the business, they want to move. You want to make more money, we'll move up the price tag. Obviously, stereotypically, first-time home buyer is now it's a sub 300,000 probably. Well, some are stretching out or are lucky enough to maybe 400,000, but. It's business. It's not that you don't like them. You always are going to accept first-time home buyers, but you market to the larger ticket because you're moving your game up, or market it all the way across the board. I mean, I don't think there's anything different. But what I want to get back to that's a valid statement. I mean, anyone don't feel ashamed by that by any way, because anyone would run their business that way. But
and I do think that luxury is a service, not necessarily a price point. Do I want to build, to be a more luxury-oriented agent? Absolutely. But I believe luxury is a service and not a price point, and that is so important to me.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. Luxury. You are. I really, the top agents, I think I'm going to think of Shelby Florenz from Compass. You guys could be sisters.
I think a couple little kids
I titled her show The Concierge Agent, I think is what I called it. And because she was the one who really basically said, that's what she's out there. She makes reservations because she totally caters to this, high. She makes reservations, standing reservations at these top restaurants. So when her clients there say, "Oh, you guys are looking for a place to go, I recommend you over. I already got a reservation for you. Just go on over." You know, she didn't say she was buying them dinner, but she made the reservation to make sure they could get in there.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where I says you're a concierge. And talking with Lisa with Keller Williams Luxury out at the beach.
Who was in my bold group back
Lisa
in
Barton?
the day. Lisa Pruitt.
No, okay.
Different Lisa?
I'm thinking Lisa Barton.
Oh, okay.
Lisa Barton. I was a kid finding Lisa runs the luxury division out at Ponte Vedra.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and she was talking about, like, you know, she goes into these big luxury homes, and a lot of times people will walk in and say, "Oh, yeah, but I'd really like to redo the kitchen." Boom. She's got someone on speed dial, and that contractor's in there. She's within a reasonable period of time, she's got numbers.
Yep.
And because that's the service, every agent, I think, should have that available. Obviously, the first-time homebuyer is not likely to go in there and do that, but if you're showing existing homes,
Well, even yesterday, for instance, I was showing a new construction home. These people actually just went under contract. It's a quick move-in, so they're not able to really make any changes on it. Well, the father-in-law is elderly, and it's a tub shower combo. They asked me, "Hey, when we move in, we really need to have this taken out and made it into a glass shower that he can walk into." I'm like, I have someone you can call right now so that they can start as soon as you close. So little things like that make a big difference.
100%. Me and my wife, we just, she was handing a rental, and the people were willing to pay for it. Elderly gentleman. Unfortunately, he's lived a good life. He's on his last months as far as they were concerned, but they needed to do just that. They needed to take the shower doors off so he could get in there. And to have somebody to be able to come right over. They paid for it. They took it all down and got it set up. But that is reality, and you should have those people regularly. But if you don't have them on your,
makes you so much more of a realtor,
yes,
than just a realtor to that person. And I feel like that is what when we're done with our transaction, like, I want to stay in touch. I want to be friends on Facebook. Like, I want to know what your kids are doing and what you did to your house after we closed. And just like concierge service, also, like, for instance, I had someone fly in town the other day. They're looking to relocate here. When they got to the hotel, I had a little bag for them. It had, Peterbrook chocolate, and, here's my buyer's guide, and here's some bottles of water, and, can't wait to meet you.
Yeah,
And little things like that make such a huge difference. They share it on their Instagram. Look how sweet this was. Yeah. And that's not why I do it, but it makes a big difference, and it takes you to that next level.
I think if you sit down and, like I said, you went through a building transaction before you got in real estate, so you saw a little bit of what that was like on the other side. Now you know a lot more. Type of thing. But put yourselves in their shoes. And I always think, I don't know if it was some of this John Maxwell stuff, it's just, they're stressed out, or they just got off the plane, they're tired, and who knows? They're probably arguing over what type of house they want. You don't know.
Oh, yeah.
We all do it, right? We all.
I live it.
And if you could put a smile on their face for that because I think I think everyone remembers you through an emotional response, whether it's laughter, smile, or if you ticked them off, they're going to remember you, right?
Yeah. So if you can make things just a little bit sweeter and a little bit better for them, then I feel like that's what I love the most about being a part of the transaction, really.
What do you think you've learned the most about yourself since you've been a real estate agent?
I think this is a tough one, but I think the thing that I've learned the most is that, like I said, I'm very type A, OCD. I'm a high achiever. I love doing and being busy. And I think what I've really had to learn is that it's okay to not do all the things and be all the places. And you don't always have to be the highest achiever, because, like, as long as you are where you want to be and everything is good for you and comfortable, and you can go and do, with your family or on vacation or with your friends, like, that is what's so important. And to me, that's all that matters. And I've really had to take, a look at myself, like, hey, you can't do everything.
Right.
If you don't get down your entire to-do list and you did 2 things, like, that was your 100% for the day. Like, that's what you did, and that's okay. And I heard that the other day. It was like, even if you only, did 2 out of the 10 things you wanted to do, like, that was your 100% for that day. And that's okay. And so that's really what I've had to, get through, is just, it's okay to take some time off, and you don't need to be, always
You don't have to be
wheel
number
turning.
one.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think we grow as a young competitive people. We want to be we want to be the best because we're trying to please mom and dad or whatever it is, right? We're the ego part of it. But as you get older, then you come to realize, there is somebody in your office doing more deals than you.
Yeah, and that's okay.
Maybe I'll go call them and ask them how they're doing it. And the question is, do I want to do what they're doing to get there? Because there's something, either they've been doing it longer and obviously have a much bigger,
probably a combination
past
of
customer referral. There's your self, your soup that you're made up of, and what they're made up of is totally two different things. You just happen to be crossing the same path at the Engel and Volkers office now. Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you don't know, where they come from. And there's no doubt there's some people that are naturally better than others at certain things. But the bottom line is, are you and your family where you want to be?
Right.
And it's not. And by saying that, you're also not saying, well, I'm not going to be. I'm still not giving up on my competitiveness. I still want to be better. I'm not going to just sit back and say, well, I'm here and this is where you still are trying to improve every day.
Sure. And actually, when I was being interviewed by the one brokerage that I said I actually didn't end up going to, but they got my wheels turning, when he was asking me, like, what are your goals? Like, who, what's something that you align with? And he was like, oh, so your goal isn't world domination? And I was like, no, it's not. I was like, not right now anyways.
Right.
But you know what I mean? So it's like this, I feel like, everyone's business, like I said, it's ran so differently. Everyone's going through different times in life. And just really staying focused on, you and your goals and your customers and being the best that you can be for them is truly the most important thing, the only thing that matters to me.
It's the process. Mm-hmm. You have to be in love with the process. The money will come at the end. The success will come at the end. If your thing is world domination, and what timer are you putting on that? Are you putting world domination over my 70 years of life?
Right.
Or are you putting world domination over the next 7 months? Well, you're probably going to have kind of be heartbroken in 7 months.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So I just think that you kind of have to keep things realistic and always just focus on your own personal goals in your career and your business.
I'm gonna kind of finish up on this one here. From a standpoint of marketing, what do you feel? And we talked a little bit about social media, but what is your go-to? What do you feel is like? Because I feel every agent, they find whatever it is from marketing that's what they love to do, what they like doing, and obviously.
What you don't like doing.
Well, it obviously works, right?
Sure.
I mean, you could love doing a lot of things. I'm waiting for this podcast to tip somewhere along the line, but it hasn't happened. I'm going to stick with it.
Yeah,
but you love what you do and you're passionate about it, but obviously it's paying the bills at the other end, right? It's producing. Is there one thing that you could or thing that you're doing that you could say is your go-to marketing?
I feel like I'm pretty heavy on the Instagram stories.
Mm-hmm.
And a million different ways. I'm just always posting on Instagram stories. And I think that's kind of my niche. I have over 2,500 followers on Instagram. Probably over 500 of them plus a day are looking at my Instagram stories.
Friends, families, past customers.
All of the above.
Hopefully future customers because they're friends of those friends.
I have people who, my page is open, so anyone can follow me, and I'll, kind of notice like some new people watching my stories, and then, 2 weeks later I get a message, hey, Erica, we're locating from, New Jersey, and we've seen your post, and we, think that like we might like to work with you, and you're just building that rapport with people who you may not even know are watching.
Well, you don't know who your friends know, right? Your friends, you know them, but you don't know, because we know a lot of people were from out of state, who they know and where their circles go, whether it was from work or from where they used to live. Now they're
following me.
Yeah, Instagram storing you up as a suggestion because you're friends with so-and-so. So you might want to be friends with this person.
Yeah, actually, it's funny you say that because I have a girlfriend of mine. We went down to Orlando the other day. We ended up having lunch with her aunt, and she's an agent down there. And she's like, yeah, I've been following you for years. Oh, sorry if that's creepy. And I'm like, I had no idea, but, thanks for following along.
It's flattering, not creepy.
Yeah, right. It totally is. And I just think, building that rapport with people without even knowing or trying, just by being your genuine self is really a great way to go.
Is there anything else you want to add?
I think
that we didn't talk about?
with real estate right now, I think the biggest thing, especially for new agents, is just, keeping your head forward, educating yourself as much as possible, and really honing in on what you can elaborate the most on. How can you reach the most people and come from the most genuine place possible?
I with the market conditions now, I mean, someone was posting the other day. I follow this guy out of New Jersey, the MG, the mortgage guy, and he was talking about people should get their mortgage license and real estate license and so forth. And I should have went in and watched the real why he put that topic up, but it made me think a little bit just by seeing the title. This is a change. This is a cycle. This is a cycle of life. It's a cycle of our industry of real estate. Luckily, like you said, we're in Northeast Florida. We're in this little
Bubble.
Special place.
I call it a niche market because it really is.
It is. Where we're getting layoffs in other parts of the country, which I've had buyers like ready to move here and all of a sudden canceled, literally got under contract and within 24 hours canceled because that day his company laid off a bunch of people and he started calling his bosses and his bosses weren't answering the phone. So he canceled the contract. So I need to wait this. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Because he was going to be working remotely from here. That stuff is going on outside of our purview. Where our little demand and obviously with interest rates so high, people aren't making the local moves. I think that's a big part of the inventory. People were moving from, whether they're moving here from Julington Creek out to Nocatee or whatever, they're, with the rates were so low and money so free, they were like, oh, hey, the rate's so low and we got some equity, put a down payment. We have the same payment now because we're over there. Now with the interest rates so high, those little
people are hanging around a little more.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
So a lot of my customers are, people who found me on social media and are relocating here. So it is actually interesting. That's very true. Yeah. People who are from here are definitely watching and waiting a bit.
Yeah.
And which definitely makes it hard for listings, which is kind of why I've honed in a little bit the last few years on new construction is because it can be a little bit more attainable rather than resale right now. So
yeah. Well, there's more options and it's scattered, although I don't know what's going on in Duval County itself, but obviously Nassau and St. John's are,
tons of growth. Yeah, especially Nassau even. Just tons of growth.
And I'm seeing a lot of, the first-time home buyers are figuring out, need to go a little west. Maybe, there's still great opportunity because that's when that highway goes in across the St. Johns River.
Right.
I mean, I know the developers are out there, have already bought up their land. They're preparing for it because the bridge's not going to be completed till 2030. But people are already, you go out there and buy a manufactured home right now on 10 acres. Yeah, you may pay $350,000 for it, but it's going to be worth a lot more when that bridge and that highway goes in and it connects and people can cross over. So I appreciate you coming on.
Of course, thanks for having me.
I enjoyed our conversation.
I'm honored.
I think it was we got some really good stuff on here. If those are listening and anyone listening to it in the future,